It feels like a stuffed animal wrapped around your neck. It is so soft. It will keep all the cold air out. Hi yarny friends, welcome back. This channel is all about yarn, crochet, and a little bit of knitting. Today, I crocheted this very, very warm and fluffy infinity scarf. And let me show you what it looks like. This is it. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I'm gonna hold it by the part I haven't woven in. It's just a big, fluffy scarf. Look at that. Oh my gosh. So there are a couple of ways you can wear it. One, like this, you know, you just put it on, stand up. It's, you know, you just wear it underneath your jacket or over your jacket, or you can kind of twist it. Click that like button if you are going to crochet this scarf along with me. Let's get our yarn and our crochet hook. The yarn we are using today is Peacock by Hobbii. It is 100% polyester, and it has 71 yards, and we are going to be using a 7mm crochet hook. Now you don't have to use Hobbii yarn to make this scarf. You can use any kind of faux fur, fluffy kind of yarn. I am just using this Hobbii, and this is a Furls crochet hook, Furls Odyssey. Okay, I do have to tell you that I started with my Furls Streamline, but then I switched to my Furls Odyssey, and I'll tell you about that in just a few minutes. But first of all, what you do is chain 13. And when you're working with this yarn, you want to use as loose of tension as you can. You definitely don't want to crochet tightly with this, or else it'll be hard to see the stitches. Now, when we get to the end of our 13th chain, we are going to half double crochet in the second chain from the hook. For the entire scarf, we are going to be half double crocheting. All of our stitches are going to be half double crochet. So in the second chain from the hook, we are going to half double crochet our first stitch. And when you're using furry yarn like this, you're going to be feeling your stitches a lot, probably relying on touch more than sight for making your stitches. So we are half double crocheting in the second chain from the hook. Okay, there's half double crochet number 1. And be sure to pull that loop up and keep it loose on your hook. You don't want these stitches ever to get tight. Okay, we're half double crocheting the second stitch in that second or in that next chain. And pay attention to how I feel. With my right hand, I'm feeling the hook, the chain I just crocheted into and made that stitch in. And then with my left hand, I'm feeling for that next chain. So half double crochet number 3. Feel that last stitch with your right hand and feel the next chain with your left hand. Half double crochet number 4. And be sure to keep that yarn loose on your hook. And be sure to pull that yarn up a little more when you pull it through those 3 loops of the half double crochet. It helps to keep it, it's easier to work with the fur when you have loose tension. Number 5. And see how every time I pull it through those last 3 loops on the half double crochet, I always pull it up a little more just to keep that looseness. I'm feeling with my right hand the stitch I just crocheted into, and then with my left hand, I'm feeling the next chain to crochet into. Okay, I'm feeling the last stitch with my right hand. The last chain that we crocheted into, and then with my left hand, I'm feeling for the next one to crochet into. Feel with your right hand the chain you just crocheted into, and then feel with your left hand the one you're going to crochet into. And pull that yarn up a little more, keeping it loose. Remember, half double crochet is yarn over. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. If you start crocheting tightly, it will be next to impossible to crochet with fur yarn. So you always want to keep that yarn nice and loose on your hook. Whoops. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Okay, we are at the end of our first row, and you have a nice fluffy little fluff of a first row. And now we are going to go on to the second row. Okay, so for row 2, we are going to chain 1 right after we finish row 1, and we're going to turn our project, and I've already yarned over. Now we're going to feel with our left hand for that first stitch that we're going to crochet into. It'll be right next. It'll be the last stitch that we crocheted on row 1. Okay, we do a half double crochet, and then we're going to feel that last stitch we crocheted into with our right hand and feel for the next stitch with our left hand. Pull that yarn up just a little, that last loop. Feel the last stitch with your right hand that you just crocheted into, and feel for that next stitch with your left hand. And pull that yarn up that you pull through. Every time you pull yarn through, whether it's through a stitch or pulling it up through the loops, always pull on it a little more to make sure that that yarn stays nice and loose. Not super loose, not loose enough for it to fall off your hook, but loose enough that it is comfortable to work with this yarn. If you get your stitches too tight in this fur yarn, it's not fun to work with. But when you crochet and keep the stitches on the looser side with a loose tension, it just all flows like butter. It's really fun to crochet with when you get the hang of it. And remember, there are 12 half double crochets on each row. And remember, we're always feeling for that next stitch. And be sure to keep count of how many stitches you're making across that row, because sometimes you'll get at the end of the end of the row and you'll just be on stitch 11 and you'll think, uh-oh, I messed up somewhere. So you're going to have to frog it out if that happens, but that's okay. It's better to have to frog it out. And by frog, I mean undoing the stitches. We call it frog because you rip it. And everybody has to do it at one time or another. So, just remember, when you're working with furry yarn, feel for your stitches and count your stitches across and keep that tension loose. Okay, we're at the end of round 2, or row 2. Sorry about that. We're going to chain 1. We're going to turn our project. See how I pulled that up loosely? Okay, we're going on to row 3. And I'm feeling for that first stitch with my left hand. And here we go for stitch number 1 of row 3. So there's that first stitch. Oops, sorry about that. I'm going off camera a little. I apologize for that. Here we go. There's stitch number 2. Stitch number 3, we're feeling with our right hand the last stitch we crocheted into, and we feel for that next stitch with our left hand. And if you're left-handed, you're going to be doing it the opposite. So you'll be feeling for that last stitch with your left hand and feeling for the next stitch with your right hand. And that's if you are left-handed. But if you're right-handed, you'll be feeling that last stitch with your right hand and the next stitch with your left hand. So we are going to continue half double crocheting 12 stitches across until we are finished with this first skein of yarn. We are going to be using a total of 2 skeins of this fur yarn. For this project, I'm not counting the rows just because I am using 2 complete skeins of yarn, of this fur yarn. Now, it might depend, if you're using this exact yarn, this Hobbii Peacock, you will use exactly 2 skeins of the Peacock yarn, which is 71 yards. If you're using another kind of faux fur yarn, you will want to use 142 yards total. So it will depend, how many skeins you use will depend on how many yards are in your yarn, but you'll be using a total of 142 yards. So we will crochet until we are finished with the skein of yarn. And remember, there are 12 half double crochets in every row. Remember to keep your stitches loose. Feel the last stitch with your right hand and feel for that next stitch with your left hand. And chain 1 at the end of every row before you turn. Now, while we're crocheting here, I did tell you that I decided to change hooks in the middle of the project, and this is why. I noticed with this resin hook, this is a Furls Streamline resin hook. It's made with resin. I love Furls hooks, and they are my favorite crochet hooks. Now, for some weird reason, this hook started getting squeaky while I was crocheting with it. I don't know if it's because this yarn is made with 100% polyester. I'm not sure what the reason was, but it became squeaky even though I was crocheting my stitches very loosely with it. And if you've never had a crochet hook start to squeak when you're using it, you're lucky. It's kind of uncomfortable, and it will literally, when the yarn and the hook rub together, it will squeak. So I don't know. I've never had that happen with a Furls Streamline before. Never. I don't know if it's the mix of this particular yarn and the hook. I don't know. But I did switch to my Furls Odyssey crochet hook, which is metal, and you'll see that in a few minutes when I start crocheting with the Furls Odyssey. And it worked so much better. So I did want to let you know why there was a change of hooks in the project. And they are both size 7mm, and they are both made by Furls. So they're the same size. I wasn't worried about there being a difference in size. And if you have any questions about anything in this tutorial, please ask them in the comments. I will get back to you. If you have any questions about the Furls crochet hooks or this Hobbii Peacock yarn or anything, please, please, please. I love to answer questions. So for now, I'm going to stop talking for a little while and we're just going to crochet. So here is an example of I realized something was going wrong in my row. I didn't have enough stitches across the row, so I had to frog it. Rip it, rip it, rip it. And I'm just going to crochet that row over again and make sure to count my stitches as I go. Okay, here we go. I switched to the Odyssey hook, and the Odyssey hook is not squeaky. It is actually sliding through the yarn a lot better than the streamline was. It was weird when I first started the project, or when I first started the scarf, the streamline wasn't squeaking at all. In fact, that's why I picked it. I didn't think that would happen. But I changed, and now this Odyssey hook is absolutely perfect for this project. So we are going to finish it with the Odyssey hook. And if you like the Odyssey hook or the streamline or this yarn, I will put links down in the description for all materials that I've used. I think this is where I stopped and picked up the streamline hook so I could show you how it squeaks. But yeah, see, when you rub your thumb on it, it'll kind of make a squeaky sound. I've never had that happen with the Furl streamlines before. So you would literally hear squeaky, squeaky, squeak as I'm doing that. I don't know why I'm showing you this. I just wanted to show you, just in case you had no idea what I was talking about. Okay, and now we're getting back to crocheting. this point, we have come to the end of our first skein of yarn, and we are going to be adding the second skein on. And you can do this however you want to. I always use a magic knot, but you can use whatever method of adding a new skein of yarn on that you would like. So I am just going to be tying my ends of yarn together, and then I'm going to start crocheting again. And since we are finished with the first skein of yarn, that means we are halfway through, because when we get to the end of the second skein of yarn, we will be all the way through. So let's get this tied together and we'll continue. And when I start crocheting again, you'll see that I'm crocheting at regular speed. If you need to slow this down any, if you'd like to see it slower, you can slow down the speed in your settings. Or if you just want to see the stitches some more, you can rewind it back to the beginning whenever I've slowed down the video a little bit. But I just kind of wanted to show you what the stitches look like in real time. Okay, we are on our very last row, and as soon as we're finished with our last stitch, we are going to tie off this yarn. Let's see how long it is. Isn't that pretty? Look at that furry wonderfulness. Okay, I'm just estimating at the length right here. It's about 4 feet long. I've folded it in half twice and it's about 1 foot long, so it's about 4 feet long. And I'm going to tie this off. And then to stitch the ends of this together, I am just going to bring those two ends together, not twisting the scarf any at all, just laying it flat, folding it in half, and then sewing those two ends together, matching stitch for stitch. So I'm just tying that beginning end of the yarn onto the end that I just tied off, and that was the starting beginning of the chain. Like I said, I'm just going to pull the yarn through. We're going to do a slip stitch, not a crochet slip stitch, but I'm just going to pull the yarn through, matching stitch for stitch, sewing the two sides together. And when you're sewing this together, and especially when you're using furry yarn, it doesn't have to be super exact. Oops, I don't know what's going on there. Here, we're gonna try this. We're gonna see if I can get this crochet hook through and actually get this yarn pulled through. There we go. The thing that I love about furry yarn like this is it is so forgiving. But still, you want to match stitch for stitch as much as possible. And you might notice that the first few rows of the scarf look a little bigger than the last or the rest of the scarf, and that's just because that's where I chained, that's where we started our project. So it does seem like it might be a little bit wider, but that's just because it was the beginning of the project. But this is where matching stitch for stitch as you're sewing it together really, really helps. See, I'm just pulling it through, and then I stick my hook through. Then I bring that yarn over and I pull it through again. So it's just a real simple seam. Your infinity scarf is done. I hope you love it. I hope it is keeping you warm. And I hope you tell everybody you know that they want to make this too. Before you leave, please click that like button and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a single tutorial or any of the other wonderful, awesome yarny stuff. All right, you guys, have a wonderful night. Bye.